Now that Carmelo Anthony has been shipped off to prison and riots nationwide have failed to materialize, you'll discover that no one in the mainstream press wants to talk about the story anymore. He's no longer useful to anyone, not even his own family. But there was a very important element of the Carmelo Anthony case, one that we should never forget, even if the media wants to pretend that it never happened. And I'm talking about the absolute unrestrained brazenness of all the lying that we had to listen to over the past year. It rivaled the Kyle Rittenhouse trial in terms of how flagrantly dishonest the coverage was. Democrats, BLM activists, the corporate press all repeatedly deceived the public about basic fundamental aspects of the story, even though anyone with an internet connection could disprove the lies in about 5 minutes. They claimed the video footage was irrelevant, even though it was a key part of the case. They claimed Austin Metcalf pummeled Karmelo Anthony when Metcalf barely actually touched him. They claimed there was an all-white jury when only about half the jury was white, and on and on and on. What else have they lied to us about over the years? I'm not talking about the narratives that all reasonable people have already rejected. I'm not talking about O.J. Simpson or George Floyd. I'm talking about the narratives that, even if you're pretty skeptical of left-wing race propaganda, might still seem convincing to you. In other words, now that we've seen how flagrantly they're willing to lie for the benefit of a killer like Carmelo Anthony, what other famous Black, quote-unquote, victims in American history need a second look? It's a difficult question to address because the entire point of propaganda is to muddy the historical record so that no one in the future can debunk the lie. And that's why seeing through this kind of propaganda isn't easy when the propaganda was written more than 70 years ago, but we should try anyway, just to see what we might find out. You know, again, they're lying blatantly to our faces about events that we all experienced, and that in most cases were caught on video for the whole world to see. If they can and do lie about those sorts of things, imagine what kind of lies they can tell about events that none of us experienced with no videos to go back and check to confirm the record.
Don't worry about the truth. The truth has nothing on the lies. The lie is so much more fun. Do you know why stories are based on a true story? And by the way, there's a movie out, an Emmett Till movie, which glorifies all of this and just lies from beginning to end. And it says based on a true story. Do you know why based? It's not the good kind of based. The based on a true story, the reason it's not just a true story is because the truth sucks, especially if it spits in the face of the narrative you want to portray as being true. So we twist the truth, we play with it, we morph it, we shape it, we shift it. Yeah, like you remember those guys hanging from the trees and the nooses and all that? They're all innocent. You've been exonerated. That was easy. You remember the Tulsa race massacre? Yeah, you remember Diamond Dick, who sexually assaulted a white woman in an elevator? Yeah, he didn't do that. Nah, he didn't do that. I remember the black dudes who showed up at the courthouse with guns and then fired first, killing white men, and then the white men retaliated? Yeah, add a little time to that, a couple pinches of bullshit, and that event turns into a racist attack against Black Wall Street. That's all it takes. You know, the easy part about lying is you can just do it immediately. Like, 2 + 2 is 3. I know it's not, but see, I'm lying. It's so easy. Watch. 2 + 2, 3. Boom. Just lied.
Consider every supposed racist atrocity from decades or centuries ago, every quote-unquote innocent minority wrongfully persecuted by racist whites. I'm not saying that all of those stories aren't true. I'm saying that you can't assume that they are true. You have to go back with a skeptical eye, willing to question even the narratives that are most taken for granted, indeed, especially those narratives. So let's go through a couple of examples now. Let's begin that process today. And let's start with the killing of a 14-year-old black boy named Emmett Till. Now, there's a good chance that you've almost certainly heard of Emmett Till. As the writer Steve Saylor has pointed out, he's not just a fixture in high school history textbooks. He was also center stage during the BLM hysteria of the past few years. Quote, Emmett Till, who was murdered in 1955, has been mentioned in 427 different New York Times articles over just the last 10 years. Emmett Till was mentioned more often in American books in 2022 than in any previous year. So as far as enduring myths go, Emmett Till is certainly up there.
But it's time for me to address the elephant in the room, which is Emmett Till. Emmett Till up there on the pantheon, the Mount Rushmore of bleep icons. He's not really an icon in the same way that like Michael Jackson or, well, he's barely black, but these are victim icons. So icons that support the narrative. These are pillars, load-bearing pillars in the storytelling, the fabrication that bleeps have been victimized from day one to current day. It's just been a nonstop. They are the most humble, sweet, just innocent lambs, just, wandering the earth, just minding their own business. And if it wasn't for that evil white man, and what's the evidence of that? Well, there was a guy in 1950 something, 40 something. When was this? It was 67 years ago, 7 years ago. Joe Biden puts out a tweet. He's talking about 67 years ago, 14-year-old Emmett Till did nothing. Oh, we start with was brutally murdered? Oh, that's the beginning of the story? Oh, okay. I got a story, guys. It's about World War II. You want to hear about it? Sure. America dropped the bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The end. Wait, you started there? You started there. You didn't start... Okay. Now...
Basic narrative, which you've probably been told in school and by the media, is that Till was abducted and lynched by racist white people in Mississippi back in 1955. His crime, allegedly, was just simply whistling at a pretty white woman in a grocery store. Her name was Carolyn Bryant Donham. It was a serious violation of racial codes at the time, so Bryant, who was very offended, lied to her family and told them that Emmett Till had groped her. This is the story. And in response, Bryant's husband and his half-brother hunted the boy down a few days later, abducted him from a cabin, and brutally lynched him. The story was a major catalyst for the civil rights movement. Many decades later, in her 70s, Bryant admitted that she had lied about Emmett Till. Black activists then demanded that prosecutors charge her with the crime, and ultimately Bryant died before they could get their vengeance. That is the official narrative. A few years ago, when Bryant passed away, CBS News repeated this version of events verbatim on air. Watch.
Carolyn Bryant Donham, the white woman who accused Emmett Till of making advances towards her, has died. 14-year-old Emmett Till was kidnapped and brutally murdered by Bryant's then-husband and his half-brother in Mississippi in 1955 over the allegation. The two men were acquitted in his killing by an all-white jury, but later confessed in an interview. The case gained national attention after Emmett Till's mother allowed Jet magazine to take and publish photos of her son's mutilated body in an open casket. The horrific image shocked the nation and served as the catalyst for the civil rights movement. Years after Till's death, Donham admitted to fabricating parts of her story, although she was never charged with a crime.
Now, the problem here is that virtually every aspect of what that anchor just said is a fabrication. First of all, Emmett Till was not accused of merely making advances towards Bryant. That's an extremely, I guess we would say, sanitized and deliberately misleading way to present the story. According to Bryant's testimony in court, as well as her memoir, Emmett Till grabbed her hand and said, "How about a date, baby?" And when she tried to flee, Emmett Till followed her to the cash register, forcefully grabbed her waist and said, "What's the matter, baby? Can't you take it?" He told her she didn't need to be afraid and explained, quote, "I've been with white women before."
Slipped through and caught me with both of his hands on my hips. He was saying to me, "What's the matter, baby? Can't you take it?" I became even more frightened as he was much larger and taller than I. Oh my God, what is going to happen? What is he going to do to me? Were the thoughts that raced through my mind. I continued to struggle to get free from his grasp. As I was struggling, he said, "You needn't be afraid of me. I've fucked white women before." I've fucked white women before? Okay. Good for you, Emmett. I'm sure she was fat-ass trailer trash from Chicago. Great. Who hasn't? I've fucked white women before. I was about to explode with fear as the seconds flew by. Never before nor since have I been that afraid. I screamed for help, but no one responded. I was afraid and alone. I was shaking all over because nothing like that has ever happened before. I'd always felt safe in the stove. But now I was afraid. I jerked and twisted as hard as I could, and I could feel the strong grip loosen from around my hips. Once free, I saw another young man pulling Emmett away from me. The young man was telling Emmett, come on, we gotta get out of here." All right? And scene.
Emmett Till did not leave the store until one of his friends entered and forcefully removed him. So this was, according to her, an attempted sexual assault, not just an advance.
And he is murdered for whistling at a white woman because in 1955 in the South.
You're spreading a lie, Whoopi, you fuck! For whistling at a white woman? Okay.
That was not only illegal, but it allowed people to murder you.
No, it didn't. Murder is still illegal. And also, here's what actually happened, and here's the account of the woman who it happened to, Carolyn Bryant. And by the way, the name of this video, as you can see right here, Whoopi Goldberg, Emmett Till's accuser, Carolyn Bryant, needs to be put on trial. First of all, she's 110 years old, but she's still alive. And on trial, she was the fucking victim of sexual assault. Accuser, what happened to listen and believe? And by the way, she has put a detailed account of this out. I made a video about it. Here's that section, just so you know, this is not about a dude whistled. Whistle while you rape, la 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 la, la la la. No, this is about a guy accosting a woman saying, "Don't worry, miss, I've fucked white women before." What, you think you can't handle it? Let's go on a date sometime, baby. Grabbing her ass. She was fucking frightened. It's called sexual assault, Whoopi. But yeah, it's just an innocent whistle. So to be clear, he didn't do, he did do. And here's what he did do. In her own words, here is the woman who is now 88, who was a smoking hot piece of ass back in the day, and here's how she said it went down. The door opened, and a young black man who appeared to be, didn't capitalize black, racism,
Is murdered for whistling at a white woman because in 1955 in the South, that was not only illegal, but it allowed people to murder you if they chose to. And we call that systemic racism.
No, oh my God. We call that total bullshit and a fabrication from a fucking race, not all, Denzel Washington, Morgan Freeman, 1,000 black dentists, that has a massive inferiority complex and is morally sus, to say the least, in the sense that we're gonna sit here and try to, split hairs about the moral atrocity of the death of Emmett Till? And you're gonna say fuck all about your murderous race of people? Not all, it's a percentage. You know, it's not the race is murderous, it's they do it way more, so it's disproportionate. So for the regressive shit, I'm not saying it's all. I mentioned Morgan Freeman. He hasn't killed anyone yet. And also, I acknowledge your desire to turn this into something about me, a white person calling this shit out. And the white person in question is a college graduate of UCLA and an Eagle Scout who is morally rock solid. As in solid as a rock. That would have been on key had I not been bleeding my way through puberty as we speak.
Now, these facts are obviously not flattering for Emmett Till, and for what it's worth, this behavior would not be out of character for the Till family. I think it's worth noting, Emmett's father was named Lewis Till. He enlisted in the Army during World War II to avoid going to prison for domestic violence. But Lewis Till's behavior did not change overseas. He was court-martialed for the murder of an Allied civilian during the Italian campaign, as well as the rape of 2 pregnant Italian women.
And I'm ashamed to say, I didn't even know about this story.
It's okay that you didn't know.
You still don't. You watch that movie and you think you know? You soaked up propaganda, you bundle of sticks. You don't know shit about what happened there. And it takes 10 minutes in a Google search. Actually, maybe 20. Because the first 15 is going to be you trying to sift through the fucking propaganda bullshit.
I'm sure a lot of people, certainly in Britain, are the same as me, they don't know about this story. So what do we see in the movie?
You see the story of an ordinary woman and her son.
Not that ordinary, actually. Emmett Till's dad went to World War II because he had 2 choices, go to World War II or go to prison. Why? For domestic violence. My voice is fucking retarded. For domestic violence. And so he's beating up this mother. This motherfucker's beating up this mother, and they ship him off. What does he do out in Italy, where he was stationed? He rapes 2 white women and kills one. And so what do we do to him? We killed him. He was court-martialed and killed righteously. Because the dude's a rapist and a murderer. What does his son do? He doesn't have a father growing up, and whatever else he had in the genes, perhaps, He sexually assaults a woman. But anyway, yeah, just ordinary family. Yeah, it was ordinary. A single black mother.
Ultimately, he was found guilty and hanged. And incidentally, he had been incarcerated at the same military prison as the American poet Ezra Pound, who was jailed for treason. Pound even wrote a verse about Lewis Till saying, "Till was hung yesterday for murder and rape with trimmings."
This man, Lewis Till, was out in Italy, stationed out there. There was an air raid going on, and he took that opportunity for him and another bleep soldier friend of his. They went out and decided to rape 2 white women, Italians. Now, if you're unfamiliar with what Italian women look like, they look like this. Okay, they're not all pole vaulters, but it's the general vibe. And that's why Lewis Till was interested, because like father like son like father, he's looking to fuck some white women. And whether they say yes or no, disregard. So they raped those 2 women, and then he killed one of them. And then the US Army found out about it, gave him a court-martial, a trial, decided he was guilty, and then killed him. Our bad. Sorry guys, sorry Italy. A couple of our guys got a little loose, got a little crazy. Now, where was Lewis Till's father? Well, he didn't have any, because he grew up an orphan in New Madrid, Missouri, as a young. So this happened during an air raid. There's some guy who made a video about this, where he got a little bit confused about how the Italian woman was killed. She was killed up close and personal by Lewis Till, but here's his account of it.
That way we'll stay up to date on what's going on around it, because like I said, that's new to me, that Emmett Till's father was a military man serving overseas and was accused of raping a young lady, I guess, and killing her, and once one in an air raid. Now, an air raid, hey, flying a plane or something, and that's weird, drop a bomb and I guess kill a young lady, and then they charged the pilot. I never heard nothing like that.
Lewis Till was not piloting an airplane and didn't drop a bomb on an Italian woman. He was raping white women, and then he killed one of them.
So from the way this brother, Mr. John, wrote, I guess right in his book, that this guy was doing, I guess, flying a plane and dropped the bomb, maybe doing his job, and some lady passed away and he was convicted. I don't know, y'all.
Yeah, guys, Lewis Till was just flying a plane, dropping bombs, and all of a sudden he's accused of murder, and we hang him for that? He was doing his job, man. These Italian women aren't going to rape themselves out there or murder themselves. Someone's got to do it. Man, racism is fucking everywhere.
If you want to hang out with me, though, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you...
Now, of course, the fact that Emmett Till's father was a domestic abuser and a rapist does not by itself demonstrate that Emmett Till did anything wrong. But, if we're just being logical about it, it makes it more likely that he would engage in similar conduct. And taken together with Bryant's testimony, it's obviously context that makes her claim more credible.
But also, Lewis Till, wife beater, rapist, murderer, also father of famous martyr and innocent, totally didn't do nothing guy, Emmett Till, who clearly didn't follow in his father's footsteps. What are you talking about? Everyone I just mentioned is innocent. That is the story, the deep dive that you probably have never gotten in your life about Emmett Till and where he comes from and what patterns he follows. To USA, you're welcome.
To this day, they're lying to us about what the woman alleged Emmett Till did to her. They're lying by claiming the woman recanted her claim. She didn't. And they're burying a lot of information about the case, about Emmett Till, including the fact that his father was a rapist.
A story like this is what we call a myth. It is make-believe, and it is propagated by people who like the way it sounds. They like the feel of it. This is how religions start, and this is why the comparison with wokeism to religion are so accurate. This is a false story. The truth of this story is ugly as fuck. No one's saying that this kid should have been murdered, and we do not know the details of how that happened. Imagine if it was the 2 blacks who killed Emmett Till. The 2 blacks who were there in the barn, if it were them who killed Emmett Till. Do you know how fast the story would go away? About as fast as the Jasmine Barnes story went away. Oh, do you guys remember Jasmine Barnes? Probably not, because a black killed her. Now, it became a story because they thought a white killed her, but it turns out it was a black who killed her. That's why the story has gone away. That's why there's no Jasmine Barnes movie being made. So these people are scandalous liars about this case. They have completely ignored Carolyn Bryant and her account, which, what point does she have to lie about this? She was not in favor of what happened to him. She was not a part of it. She was a victim of sexual assault and told people exactly what happened. It doesn't matter. They're gonna lie because they're shameless. This story is a lie. The Central Park 5 is a lie. What happened in the Tulsa race riots is a lie. It's the same theme, it's the same pattern. And all the time we spend focusing and putting our attention on their garbage made-up stories is time that we're not looking at the myriad of other things going on that do not fit anywhere in this narrative of blacks in North America are innocent and fuck those whites, aren't they evil and racist? The overwhelming momentum and force of the truth of this matter is what makes this whole thing feel awkward and toxic. None of this rings true, but it does in the minds of these cowardly racist bitches who don't give a fuck about murder or morality or any sense of honor. They're happy to lie to themselves and to the world because this is not just the story of Emmett Till, it's the story of their identity as a race in a continent. And it reflects and trickles down all the way to how they think about themselves. It's used as a justification of vitriol and hatred towards white people. Totally unjustified, all based on a lie, but fuck it, it makes them feel good. And if you don't think fuck it, it makes me feel good is one of the driving forces of history, then you don't have a degree in history from UCLA, which I do. Okay, bye.
I don't belong here. I don't care if it hurts.
And with all that in mind, you have to wonder if they're telling the truth about any aspect of this particular story. I mean, once they're willing to fabricate important details in order to create a myth for the purposes of launching the civil rights movement, then there's no reason to trust anything they say about it.
Now, my voice is jacked. I don't know why. I don't sound like myself. I had a cold. I'm coughing. I don't know what's happening. But I'm gonna record anyway and go through puberty a few times in the process. It looks like the Emmett Till movie is out. Can I take you to junior prom? And Whoopi Goldberg did an interview and just is now resetting the urban myth lie about Emmett Till. So we're gonna get our panties in a bunch about some murder from 1955. Like, hey guys, let's say a bleep got murdered for no reason in 55. Isn't it terrible? Isn't murder terrible? When is the movie coming out about the two white kids who got raped and murdered and set on fire by a group of bleeps? When's that movie coming out? I guess it's in pre-production. How's the Canon Hinnant film coming out? The little boy who was killed randomly by some bleep? Or how about that young college girl who got killed, stabbed to death in a park out in New York? She was 18. I forgot her name. Because who cares? I got bigger issues to worry about, namely going through puberty and also the Emmett Till movie. The Emmett Till movie is out. And we gotta cover this shit. So Whoopi, tell us how bad it is to be a bleep who didn't do anything in 55. Every part of my being tells me that this is all bullshit. It's obvious. And yet we are expected to stomach this and talk about this dude like it's some big deal. Like it means something beyond whatever happened to Emmett Till. Whatever those whites and blacks did to Emmett Till after he sexually assaulted that woman. But I guess no one wants to talk about Shannon Christian and Christopher Newsom. Yet go look them up on Wikipedia. The two white people who were raped and murdered by bleeps. And we're not going to talk about Tessa Majors. And there's not going to be a Hollywood film made about Charisse Christopher or her 2-year-old Lacey, who were killed by Purvis Payne, a bleep. And Stacey Stites is not a household name, and Deborah Reese isn't either. And Doug and Peggy Ryan, you haven't heard about them, even though you watched my video about them. When they and their son Josh Ryan got stabbed the fuck up, he survived, but Jessica Ryan didn't, and Christopher Hughes, little white boy, he got killed by a black guy in the 80s. You want to talk about that? You want to do an anti-lynching bill on that? How about Pamela Albertson, or Leslie Dickinson, or Paul Howell, who got capped for a car by Julius Jones, a bleep? You don't want to mention any of that? How about this? Here's a little clippity-doo-dah. It's more bleeps in a store, not a candy store, although there is candy in there. And we got a woman, red hair, probably Irish descent. I say hair, I mean red wig. We got a little scuffle, a little back and forth. Now, you check yourself, uh-oh. I wish a nigga would. All right, so we're whopping outside. We're walking outside, and she's clapping, and here she comes. Oh, swinging, bang, bap, blap, blap. What's going on? And everyone backing away, and oh my God, just sort of watching it go down. More just ridiculous bullshit. This is in Queens. Okay, and here she comes. She's still trying to get in this woman's face, and they're mad at each other, but the men are prying them off. Dudes are pulling up their pants. Okay, it's over. And here she comes. She's walking away. You know, we had our fun. It was a bit of a fight. And, yeah, it's embarrassing, but like, you know, shit happens. But the car's backing up and oh shit. What are you doing with the car? What are you doing? Okay. So that guy who was disabled, just some innocent white man sitting there, he's dead. They killed him. So yeah, that was a violent blunt force trauma to that dude, and he's gone. So that was an act of fucking brutality and insanity, and it's blacks killing a white. Maybe he's Hispanic, so I don't know how we can paint that picture. You know, do blacks kill Hispanics, or do they go after Asians? Or do blacks go after blacks? Is that a thing? Or do they go after whites? Is it disproportionate? Are we going to talk about this? Hey, Biden, can we get an anti-this law passed? What the fuck did we just witness? How in the fucking Christ is Emmett Till more important than that? What we just saw? That happened yesterday. So don't give me this shit about Emmett Till. And don't you dare try to wave that story around and pretend to shame white America for your ridiculous cherry-pick job of man bites dog. And there's an incredible chance that bleeps were involved in the killing of Emmett Till. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. The ambassador of the white race is here to stay, and he's not taking this bullshit. So spare us the hypocrisy of you not giving a shit about the white victims of black crime, which dwarfs any murder from whites to blacks. It dwarfs it. No offense to the midget American community. I love you. I love all of you. Thank you for watching my video, for hearing my passion, for partaking in this exchange of ideas, which is primarily me just giving you ideas, and then you absorbing them and saying, thank you, sir, may I have another? And the answer is yes, you shall. Same bat time, same bat channel. Now get out of here.
Now, does that mean that his killing was justified? No, obviously not. It was a brutal murder. We know that. There's really no disputing that.
Emmett Till did not deserve to die. I'll put that on the table. I think. I don't know. I mean, we don't know what happened there. No one does. But that's the beauty of it. Because where there is mystery, there is racism. Where there's a gap, there's some dude stuffing it with racism. Saying, the mystery surrounding what actually happened to Emmett Till, I got the answers. He was killed by white dudes. And it's all racism, and fuck you whites. Ooh, we got him. We got him. I love it because, like, you could give them Emmett Till. You could just be like, yeah, Emmett Till was strung up by a bunch of good old Klansmen, and it was the most racist thing in the history of racism. And I would still not give a fuck about it. Because by your logic, it makes no sense. If you're the regressive dick who's sitting there going, I think racism's bad, and here's my evidence. 2 white guys once killed a black guy. Oh, okay, so can I just acknowledge that's how we're measuring this? If you really want to measure racism by if one race kills a member of another race, tap the brakes, sir. You don't want to measure racism that way, because if you did, you and I would have a lot of criticism to point right at those bleeps, because they do it 100 times more than us. I think it's 10 times. 10 times more. It's orders of magnitude lopsided the other direction. So now you raise up Emmett Till, you cherry pick that fat bleep and hold him up like that means something. You have the fucking gall to bring that case up as if it means more than what? The individual event? The individual people involved in that case? Oh, it meant something to them. What does it mean to us? What does it mean to the storytelling and the urban mythology you are obviously trying to create here to soothe yourself and to tell a story that the whites are the bad guys and the bleeps did nothing? And I got news for you. Number 1, Emmett Till did not do nothing. And we have a new account from the woman who's still alive. She was hot as shit back in the day. Here's a picture of her. Right there on the right. There's her Chad husband, and that's her. She got accosted and sexually harassed by that dude. Okay, so the facts are the facts. Murder's bad, but that happened. And we're going to get into this. But the large point, the umbrella point, is who gives a fuck? Who absolutely gives a shit about this? Because I'm not hearing any of the names of the victims of bleeps who were white. Throughout history, yesterday or tomorrow, you're not going to hear those names. But for some reason, we're going to enshrine the name of Emmett Till. We're going to name avenues after this dude. We're going to put up statues of him and George Floyd and whoever else. I mean, this is a manipulation, people. You are being played. The people that buy into this horseshit, it's like they are so ignorant of what is happening in reality, of all the names of the white victims of bleeps, that they just don't give a shit to remember or even investigate. But they're gonna pretend like this case means something? No, it doesn't. But I got a little news flash for you, and it's another M. Night Shyamalan twist from hell. Are you ready for this one? I'm not convinced that bleeps didn't kill Emmett Till. Exactly. I have evidence that bleeps were involved in the murder of Emmett Till. We know they were involved. We have eyewitnesses that saw Emmett Till. The last dude who ever saw Emmett Till was a bleep who said, well, I'll show you what he said, but he saw a car with the two dudes in question that did trial for this, Emmett Till, a couple other whites, and then a couple other bleeps, as in bleeps who were working for the whites. Now, who did what to Emmett Till? What actually happened that night? I don't know, and you don't know, but I know bleeps were involved. Bleeps, not Emmett Till. I'm talking about other bleeps. You want some evidence? Aight, which is black for all right. Although only Bryant and Millam were charged, black teenager Willie Reed testified during their trial that he saw a group of white men and black men, and by the way, capitalized black, non-capitalized white, tells you a lot, in a truck with the person he later realized was Till based upon photos. Till's great uncle testified that Bryant and Millam were accompanied by a third person with a voice lighter than a man's when they abducted Till, indicating the possible presence of a woman or a gay man. Okay, here's some more evidence of that. Millam's relative, Leslie Millam, bolstered the idea that a group of people were involved in a deathbed confession years later to being involved in the lynching. Beto said several black men were suggested through the years as having helped restrain Till in the back of the truck while their boss and other white men rode in the cab. Yeah, we have eyewitness account of that. He said it back then, he says it now. He'll tell you right now. Here we go. The black men were under duress, they didn't have a choice. So right there, they're excusing the other black men who detained Emmett Till, put him in the truck, got in the truck with him, then they drove off. Next thing you know, they're fishing Emmett Till's body out of a river. Oh, I don't think those black men were under duress. They were just following orders, sir. Yes, sir? I mean, fucking insane. Keith Beauchamp, a filmmaker who investigated the case for his documentary The Untold Story of Emmett Till, said as many as 14 white and black people were involved with the abduction, killing, and cleanup. Not quite the racist gotcha you thought it was. Hey, you fucking freaks. Not you. Through it all, no one else was ever charged, and the narrative of exactly what happened remains murky. Oh, you know what I'm going to do with that murk? That murk sounds like a gap of knowledge. And you know what I like to do with gaps? I unzip, I unfurl, and I stuff, and I mount, and I hump. With what? With the theory that it is racism. Yeah, the murkiness of that story is racism. Yeah.
But the popular narrative about this case leaves out important details and blatantly lies about others. And there's no disputing that either. Which makes you wonder about, what else about the story they aren't telling us. Nothing about the story, or any of these kinds of stories, can be taken on faith anymore. Doesn't mean they're all wrong. Any of these kinds of stories you learned in school, you should go back again and check. You cannot assume that any of them are entirely true, and many of them might be entirely wrong. And in fact, lynchings in general are one of the most inflammatory aspects of American history, and therefore nobody wants to be honest about them. There's a hysteria about lynchings that led to a federal anti-lynching bill just a few years ago, if you remember that.
We wanted to teach you what one ordinary woman decided to do when she saw what was done to her child.
Yeah, she mourns her child, and then they lie about what happened. They lie about what the child did, and then they cast aspersions, and then worst case scenario, this is about the actions of a couple of people, a few people, 2 blacks and a couple of whites in a barn. So why is this a societal statement? What does this have to do with anything besides those people? No, Devin, it's a symbol. It's emblematic of, events that happened all the time. Oh, right, because everyone who lynched was innocent. I forgot that part. You know, at this stage of life, if you're still getting shit wrong, it's just a depressing fact that is not going to change. I mean, the guy is virtue signaling to the grave. Like his final act is to be like, slavery bad, croak. Okay. He just outlawed lynching. Apparently that went through. I think that happened a few months ago, but he tweeted about Emmett Till again and was bragging about how lynching is illegal. Can someone in the room explain to me, okay, who was under the impression that lynching was legal? Lynching is murder. The act of committing an act of murder, even if you think you have a cause, you know, some guy felt up your girlfriend or whatever it is, he's guilty of jaywalking, you can't go and murder someone apparently. And now there's an extra law on the books that if you lynch, which is just in my eyes, you murdered someone, which is kind of wrong. I thought we could all agree on that. Then now it's a federal hate crime and you're going to go to jail extra long for murder. It's murder plus. You remember atheism plus? Now we have murder plus. The most useless, performative, politically hollow measure in the history of time. And this guy's beating his chest like he did something.
Even though no black person has been lynched in this country at all in living memory, now, white people have certainly been attacked for their skin color, as we saw at the top of the show. But there have been no anti-black lynchings at all in many, many decades. And, you know, there's this idea that if you object to any of the propaganda about lynching, then you must endorse the murder of innocent black people. But that's obviously not true. And all that matters is the truth. That's all we're saying about all these stories. What actually happened? What is the truth? You're saying some things that aren't true. I want to know what the actual truth is. That's all. Now, the popular narrative about lynching today is that it was a form of murderous violence inflicted by white people on black people for racial reasons. Now, it's true, of course, that those kinds of lynchings have occurred in American history. Not any time recently, which is what made that anti-lynching bill so ridiculous, not to mention the fact that lynching was already very much illegal anyway. And yet even Tuskegee University, which is a historically black university, admits that between 1882 and 1968, more than, and this is according to their tally, more than 27% of lynching victims were white. Now, if lynching was a form of racial violence, then why would a significant percentage of the victims be white?
Washington's lynching served as a stark reminder of the deep-rooted racism in America.
What? Race? Where's the racism? You fucking piece of shit. God damn it, Lamar. What is racist about killing a murderer? He's stupid. By the way, we lynched white people back then all the time. Like 35% of people lynched were white. Something like that. There were thousands of them we lynched. God. Was that racial terrorism? Oh, no. When you lynch a white guy, they probably did something. So if a white guy's hanging off a tree, what was that cracker up to? If a black guy's hanging off a tree, goddamn, racial terrorism. Can you believe those fucking whites? Am I right?
America. It raised awareness, prompting...
It raised awareness.
The moment that Enya song comes on and you immediately think of Devon. You aren't here by accident. Join the Flying Monkeys.
The answer is that historically, lynching was a form of mob justice. In the vast majority of cases, the victim, white or black, or any race, was accused of committing a serious crime.
Because you're this skin tone, like people really got killed because they were a different skin tone, bro. You know how stupid that is?
Yes, I do know how stupid it is. Let's dive in and analyze what you're talking about. People got killed because of their skin tone. That is not what happened ever. It's just not what happened. Now, it would be so convenient for that to be the case because, I know how to morally navigate that. Wait a minute, you guys are going to kill somebody? Yeah, why? Because he's black. Oh, so you're just going to kill him because he's black? Yeah. Oh my God, you white people are so evil. Oh my God. Well, we're the good people of history because you're just killing people because they're black. Well, let me burst your bubble here. None of these people were killed because they were black. They were killed because they were killers and or rapists. So they get killed for killing. It's called justice. And the fact that you are totally incapable of grappling with that reality is rather amusing to me. I would like to, hold on, does he say anything else?
You know how ignorant you gotta be to put somebody in a tree and hang them because they're black?
They don't get put in a tree. Okay, it's not a tree house. We're stringing you up because you killed someone. Capiche? Do you understand that? This guy is literally projecting the idea that white people today or back in the day just killed people for fun. For no reason, just racism. Now, it conveniently cuts out the logical, historical, commonsensical context of the situation, which is the black person did something incredibly fucked, incredibly evil, totally criminal. And so they had to be removed from society, and they will respect our authority. And we're not putting them in trees, we're hanging them from trees. And deservedly so.
Now, often, we can't know exactly how often, but they were indeed guilty of committing the crime. The important point is that lynching was not an exclusively racial form of violence. Often it had nothing to do with race at all. I mean, we can confidently say that most of the 27% of white victims, assuming that percentage is not an undercount, which is a very massive assumption, but we can assume that they were not lynched, for racial reasons. Does it make sense then to assume that every black victim was lynched for racial reasons? Of course it doesn't.
You really don't like somebody because they're a different color, they're a different religion, bro. That's the dumbest shit ever for me.
God. I mean, as an adult, dude, that man has gray in his hair. And he's talking about, here's my point to you. I think it's dumb to kill people for no other reason than just because they're black and put them in trees. I'm against it. I'm just going to come right out and say it. Oh, really?
It really is.
Oh my God. All right, well, let me tell you about a story. It's a story of a black dude in a tree, and we set him on fire for some unknown reason. Do-do-do-do. He had an elbow that was a different shade of color, and so we strung him up. We strung him up, down, down, we strung him up, down, down, down. Look at this black dude. This is not the NFL Combine. We strung him up. Down, down, down.
Join the flying monkeys.
In a certain significant percent of cases, they were lynched for the same reason whites were lynched, because they had committed or were accused of committing a crime. And lynching was not invented in 1882, by the way. It had been used all through the early history of the United States and before that. It happened during colonial times, too. We don't have any data, as far as I could find, on the racial makeup of the victims in the early 19th century and prior to that. But there is good reason to suspect that a large number of them, perhaps even a majority, perhaps even a large majority, were white. And this wasn't just mob justice. Sometimes it was. Sometimes mobs of angry townsfolk banded together to kill some alleged wrongdoer. And sometimes they would do that even though they had a court system and jails that could have brought the alleged criminal to justice in a, civilized and constitutional way. But sometimes lynching was less a case of mob justice and more a case of frontier justice. Large swaths of the American territory through much of its early history didn't really have a functioning court system, so there wasn't much you could do with murderers, rapists, and cattle thieves in those cases, but execute them quickly, and sometimes they would leave their bodies hanging from a tree as a warning to anyone who might think of committing similar crimes. It was brutal and ugly, but sometimes brutal and ugly options were the only ones available.
Homeless fuck out in North Carolina who killed Irina Zarutska, and the state has deemed him incapable of trial. Now, he was capable of going into the court system and being punished 14 other times, but on this latest one, no, now we're saying he's a retard. He's cray-cray. Yeah, we know that from the start. I mean, how does that mean he escapes punishment? Explain that to me. That's ridiculous. But it turns out he's also up on federal charges, and the feds might not go as easy as the state buffoons. Okay, so the fact that this guy isn't dead right now is kind of crazy. Any other period of history, he's dead. All right, and it's me, you, my boy Mantis, my friend Mike Pierce, and Pony Boy. We're gonna go out and do it ourselves because we're not gonna wait for the fucking insult of them telling us, he has some mental issues. You think? You fucking think? Yeah, and the average IQ of these fucks is like 70 or 80 IQ. They're all goddamn retarded on a spectrum. It's a bell curve. Go look it up. Charles Murray. That ain't an excuse. You're a human being, and these are our wives, sisters, brothers, husbands, bi-curious stepsisters. Okay, so we care about these human beings, and it's not a fucking excuse that you people are repugnantly stupid and immoral. So it's a goddamn miracle that guy is breathing oxygen right now. And I'm getting a little bit alarmed. And by the way, this is the reason lynch mobs formed in the first place, is when the fucking state are incompetent and not doing their job. Tell them we were doing our job. And you get these fucking black people coming out of the woodwork. This multimillionaire queer fuck is gonna sit here and say, man, it's crazy that you just kill people because they're black. Look at the color of their elbow. That's messed up and shit. It's so dumb. These people should be on our side saying, get that N out of existence. I totally agree. But wait a minute, his skin color is the same as yours. Are you okay with the optics? Yes! Kill that fucking dude. Are you people just completely devoid of humanity? Jesus H. Christ, dude. Wake up. So, hold on.
Because they're black?
Yes, it's because they're black, dude. It's the mentality of a 3-year-old. Why are we not... Hey, guys, what do you want to do today? I don't know, it's a Thursday. What do you want to do? Go kill someone? Why? What? That's horrible. Why would you say that? Well, it's a guy who's kind of like brown. Oh, well, you buried the lead. Of course. Let's go kill him. What? Dude, shut up. You're such a chump. It's so pathetic. It's so weak. It's so intellectually bankrupt. My lord.
Maybe you can think of a better way to deal with like a murderer if you're living in a frontier town and there's no court system and no jail and you've got someone who just murdered someone or is a rapist. What are you supposed to do with that person? So again, we have a story that is much more complicated than the one told today by the media and the education system. Lynchings happened for hundreds of years. A huge number of them had nothing to do with race. Some of them were actually justified and necessary. Some of them were not. Some of them were racial killings. Some of them were not. We can't possibly know what the percentages look like. We can't break it down into a pie chart. And so instead, the popular narrative has simplified the pie so that the racial killings are the whole pie.
So the moral of the story is lynching, hear me out. They're right in spirit. We've modified how we go about carrying out executions. That's fine. That's progress. We've moved forward. The moral righteousness of carrying out punishment for crime is solid. That is not controversial and shouldn't be, and you shouldn't lose track of that. People are lying to you constantly, not just about Jess Washington, about Jussie Smollett or O.J. Simpson or George Floyd, or the lies never stop. And seeing someone hanging from a tree is not evidence of their innocence, it's evidence of their guilt. And if you dare research any of these cases, you will find the bone-chillingly mundane reason why that person was killed. They should have been killed. I'm glad they were killed. Many more people should be killed, including the killer of Irina Zarutska, a white woman killed by a black man. So, not suitable for trial? In my opinion, he's suitable for a rope. Oh, I'm sorry, we changed it up. Lethal injection, whatever we're gonna do. Do it. That man needs to be off this earth and not sharing my oxygen. Fuck him, fuck murderers, and fuck the disproportionate murderers in our country, in every country they exist, black people. Not all. I'm talking about the murders. But I can see, I saw what you tried to do there. I knew that you were trying to make this about me. It's not about me. I'm an Eagle Scout. I'm better than you. Much better than you. You're garbage. Goodbye.
And now lynching has become a symbol of anti-black racism. But historically, the concept of lynching did not have that automatic racial connotation. It's only relatively recently that the noose has become this like racially charged symbol. But it should tell you something that literally every prominent case of a racist noose being left somewhere to intimidate black people at any point this century has turned out to be a hoax. All of them have been hoaxes. And maybe that should tell you something. Moving on to another case, the Central Park Five, who were supposedly railroaded and falsely accused of brutally beating and raping a white woman. in 1989. Netflix recently released a drama about the incident called When They See Us.
When They See Us is a 4-part miniseries on Netflix. It is the story of the Central Park Five as seen through a very particular lens, and that is the lens of the 5 men who said they didn't do it. It is a fictional account of the didn't do story. The title might be a little bit confusing to you, When They See Us. It's very vague. What the hell are they talking about? What is the implication? The natural title for this would have been the Central Park Five. But Ava DuVernay, the black woman who made this film, she felt that the Central Park Five is dehumanizing. It doesn't embody the spirit of the piece, so she changed the title to When They See Us. And with a title like that, it almost begs the question, who is they and who is us? Well, let me answer that for you right now, because it's an insight into how hideous these people are. The us in that equation is black people, including these 5 men who were assaulting people in Central Park in 1989 and raping a woman. But don't worry about that, brush that over. What they are is they're black and Latin, so they're people of color. That is the us. But specifically, Ava is concerned about black people. That's why she's doing it. If the Central Park Five were 5 Puerto Ricans, she would not have made this film. Ava DuVernay studied African American studies at UCLA, as well as English. She got into filmmaking later in life. Oh, but first, let's get back. Who is the they in When They See Us? The they is us, white people. I mean, the sentence pretty much embodies everything about their philosophy. It is an us versus them mentality, and it lumps groups of people together in an insane fashion. They're trying to suggest that you, if you are a white person and you viewed this case, you came to your conclusion because of the color of the skin of the suspects. Now, they're not basing that on anything, that's just their racist assumption. And they're ignoring all of the evidence and the reasons why you would believe these guys did this. Dozens of eyewitness accounts put them at the scene. They themselves put themselves at the scene. They incriminated themselves. This isn't hard to see. But when you're a basic bitch racist, like Ava DuVernay, you see everything in black and white. And so that's why it's When They See Us. It's not a case about 5 guys in Central Park. It's a statement about racism. And they are leveraging white guilt so that these men can walk free and be considered heroes in the public sphere, which is unbelievably insane.
And in that drama, here's what one of the black suspects looks like. And so he's smiling and he's extremely tiny. Your first thought is that, there's no way he could assault an adult woman. He looks so small and innocent. And indeed, the whole series is about how the racist white police and prosecutors decided to frame this kid and his friends for a crime they didn't commit. Never mind the fact that in real life, many of the detectives involved in the case were black.
They asked him, well, what happened in the park last night? And the answer was, well, I was in the park. I was with these guys. They were beating people up. I saw what happened, but I didn't touch anybody. And then the detectives asked him, well, was anything else happen? And they were like, no. And he goes, okay, no problem. And he told me, give him a desk appearance ticket. So I give him the ticket. Okay, goodbye. We get the next kid in, Lamont McCall, same thing. He comes in with his mother. His rights are read to him. They waive their rights. They'll say they're willing to talk. They asked him what happened. He said he was with a bunch of guys who were beating people up, but he didn't touch anybody. And did anything else happen? Anyone else get assaulted? No. Okay. They tell me, give him a desk appearance ticket. Now he's gone. Now the third kid is Kevin Richardson. So Kevin Richardson comes in with his mother. It's the exact same thing. I was in the park with a bunch of guys. They were beating people up. I was just watching, but I didn't touch anybody. But the difference is he had a scratch on his face. And one of the detectives asked him, he said, where did you get the scratch? At first he said it was my partner, Bobby. He said Bobby did it, scratched his face when he was arresting him. And the detective said to him, listen, you better be telling the truth because Powers is next door. I'm going to go ask him. And then, what's his name? Kevin Richardson kind of put his head down and he goes, it was the jogger. The female jogger did it. And it was like shocking. It's like everybody just was kind of stunned for a second because we were absolutely not expecting this. We didn't think that it was them. We were hoping they would give us good information, possibly as to what had occurred. But when he said that, it was like, oh shit! Now what do we do?
This, by the way, is what the innocent black boy actually looked like in real life. Here he is. So there's a slight disparity there. They're not even hiding the propaganda. It's as flagrant as it could possibly be, but they don't care. Watch.
So from left to right, we have Antron McCrae, Raymond Santana, Kevin Richardson, Corey Wise, and the big tall Yusef Salaam. So let's continue. Corey Wise was played by this kid who won the Emmy. Now, he doesn't have too much of a resemblance to him, but he was a smallish type guy, and he tried to embody the spirit of Corey, which is a little bit quirky, a little bit slow. No real problem there. Here's the Puerto Rican they got to play Raymond Santana. Now that's Raymond today. He's put on many pounds. He was quite a thin guy back in the day, so this I have no problem with at all. Here's what Raymond looked like in '89 when he was raping that woman. But then we get to Kevin Richardson. Kevin Richardson is sort of the poster boy of the series. He's featured prominently throughout the film. Kevin Richardson was and is a large man. Here he is in the middle there. He was a big kid, too. He was an early bloomer, we'll say. Here's Kevin Richardson being perp-walked by Eric Reynolds. Kevin is bigger than Eric Reynolds, even at 14. Dude was big.
You know, when you watch these kids, they're 14, 15, one's 16 years old. When you think about orchestrating a group confession, you could never, they're not actors. One of them could barely put two sentences together. The other one was really, really quiet. It was tough to hear him in the beginning. I think that was Richardson. That was a little quiet. He was the bigger one, right?
Yeah.
The guy was being accused of beating on and raping a woman, because he did. He was a menacing presence who violently inflicted harm upon others that night. Kevin is the guy that Raymond Santana, Antron McCrae, and Corey Wise all said raped Trisha Miley. They all say that. I mean, it comes down to the injury on his eye. What do you believe? Do you believe that injury was caused by a cop hitting him with his helmet? You know, an evil white cop, let's just assume. Or do you think that it was what Kevin said, which is that Trisha Miley scratched him when he was on top of her, raping her? I mean, it comes down to that. That's why his eye injury is of significance. But before we get to his eye, let's get to the actor they chose to play Kevin Richardson. And here he is. This little tyke, his name is Asante Black, with 2 Ks, not 3. God forbid 3. This little rascal looks like a overgrown toddler. They cast this prepubescent little scrub to play the big, hulking Kevin Richardson, as if to suggest, how could this little boy rape anyone? Of course he didn't do. The guy's like 3.
Not one shred of evidence.
Imagine the frenzy of these teenagers ripping off her
They
clothes.
are innocent of these crimes.
They are guilty.
They're doing us like this.
What other way they ever do us?
I've been having these dreams. I keep hearing these footsteps. And they coming closer and closer. That's me. Coming to bring you home.
They said if I went along with it, that I could go home. And that's all I wanted.
The police will do anything. Lie on us, they will lock us up, they will kill us.
This portrayal of the prosecutor was so bad that the prosecutor sued Netflix and won a settlement. It was just totally over the top and false. The story they're pushing, which is the story you'll find everywhere from textbooks to movies, is that the detectives grilled these 5 teenagers, 4 black and 1 Hispanic, who were between 14 and 16 years old, for hours on end. They told them to confess, and they planted all kinds of information in their heads. In the end, the teenagers broke. They implicated themselves in writing and on video, all because the racist police officers played a dirty trick on them. All 5 of them implicated themselves, several of them in the presence of their parents, all because the police pressured them to confess.
When they rape us, part 2, the police coerced them into confessing.
Let me take you on a trip.
No, like I was lying.
Around the world and back.
I was the one that didn't rape her.
And you won't have to move, you just sit still.
We were sitting there for a long time.
Now let your mind do the walking.
Kevin pulled down his pants and had sex with her.
But you're not gonna go home until you give up until you say a story.
If he would have gave me 100 names, I would have put 100 people at the crime scene.
Hey, did you hear those kids, those innocent angel kids from the Central Park 5? They were coerced into confessing. They didn't want to. They were lying. Yeah, they were false confessions. It was the cops who forced them into it. We call that coercion. And the way people talk about this, they talk about it like it's a known thing, like it's a fact. They were coerced. Sounds good. Okay, let's go with it.
Now, one of the first things you need to do when you're evaluating this narrative is to watch the interrogation footage. It's available online, and here's one of the alleged attackers, a 14-year-old named Raymond Santana, and pay attention to his demeanor. Okay, listen to how he answers the questions and adds details that weren't asked for. And judge for yourself if you think he's telling the truth.
Why don't you tell me what happened on the night of April 19th in Midtown? Could you see what he was doing? Where were you standing?
I was on the side of Kevin.
Were you watching?
No, I was grabbing lady titties.
Were you standing up or kneeling or sitting down
I
beside
was
him?
kneeling.
You were leaning over?
I was on my knee.
Was her shirt on?
No.
Did you know where her shirt was?
No.
Do you know where her bra was?
No.
So while Kevin was on top of her, was he laying on top of her?
Mm-hmm.
And while he was doing that, you were feeling her breasts with both hands?
Mm-hmm.
How long did you do that?
I don't know if I know. I don't remember if I don't even know if I know he was there.
And you did that while Kevin was having intercourse with her? Did Kevin say anything while he was on top of her? You have to answer out loud.
No.
Was Anton saying anything?
No.
Did Steve Lopez say anything?
No. All he was saying was, "Shut up, bitch." And he smacked him.
Does any of that seem coerced to you? Interviewer asks question, suspect answers question. You realize this is how policing works. We're trying to figure out what happened, who's to blame. And here's a real tricky layer to that. What if you're asking questions of a person who was to blame, who is guilty? Maybe, just maybe, they're not going to give you the exact truth of what happened. Have we considered that? Huh.
Find me eventually. I had a vision of love.
Now, the video goes on for a long time. His demeanor doesn't change. He tells a consistent story that he participated in the attack, but his conscience eventually led him to leave the scene as the sexual assault began. Provides a lot of details. Many of them are unprompted. Kind of details that he'd only know if he was involved in the attack. Anyone looking at this video would have every reason to believe he's telling the truth. And on top of this confession, the police had physical evidence. At trial, the jury heard that, quote, hair consistent with the female jogger's hair was found on the clothing of Richardson and co-defendant Stephen Lopez. Blood stains were found on Santana's right sneaker, Salam's jacket, and on co-defendant Lopez's underwear, and semen stains were found on the underwear of McCrae and Richardson and on Santana's sweatshirt. Now, none of this evidence has ever been refuted, and you're also supposed to ignore the fact that the defendants were convicted of crimes that related to other attacks that same evening, which had nothing to do with the jogger. But if you ask the left, they'll tell you that it's obvious all these confessions were coerced and planted because the teenagers contradicted themselves on important issues. Of course, if the confessions were planted, then you would expect that they would be consistent, not inconsistent. The truth is that the confessions were consistent on all important matters. That's why they held up in court. The defense lawyers in every single case tried to discredit the confessions in front of the jury by pointing out inconsistencies, and in every single case, the jury rejected those claims because they recognized that the inconsistencies were not material.
They were seen by dozens of people. They don't deny this, they admitted this. They saw all the assaults that happened in Central Park prior to the rape. They gave detailed accounts of what they saw. No one is disputing this. There was a female jogger, they jumped her. They hit her and pushed her to the ground. Not all of them, only a couple. But then they swarmed her. Some of them held her arms. Others pulled off her clothing and held her legs apart. They then took turns raping her. And as she screamed for help, they told her to shut up and punched her until she lost consciousness. Whereupon they continued raping her. This happened. They all volunteered hours of detailed accounts of this. And even though they all predictably lied about their personal involvement in the rape itself, the picture that they paint was very clear. In the middle of their wilding out in the park, beating people up, robbing people, they savagely beat and raped Trisha Miley that night. At some point after they were done with her, a young man named Mateus Reyes came upon her, raped her, and took a rock to her head, leaving her for dead. I'm doing this 7-part video series because nobody else will. You're not going to find this kind of coverage anywhere on this case because people view the situation as toxic because of the racial overtones. Actually, more accurately, because the racial narrative spun by the bigoted idiots who made that film, by the Central Park 5 themselves, by people like Oprah Winfrey, and by everyone in establishment media who jumped on board this story and didn't question a single thing. The whole thing is lies. These 5 men did this and are as guilty as sin, and I would put my life on it. Do you hear me? 1000% they did this. In today's world, we have blasphemy. It's not to do with religion anymore, it's to do with race and the guilt, the cloud of white guilt that consumes most white people. So we're not allowed to push back or to question the notion that everything is racist. And if you dare to try to be skeptical or to not jump on board the racism explains everything train, you know what might happen to you? You might get tagged with a slur, a label. Do you know which one? Here it comes. They might call you this, a racist. Yeah. Have you heard that term? Does it have any juice left? Are you still scared of it? Because people can call you whatever the hell they want, but the truth has a way of, it's tenacious. And when you wield the truth, that's kind of a powerful thing. So I beg you, stop clutching your pearls and worrying that some pussy is going to call you a racist, because they have no case. It's all a scare tactic. They're trying to hit you with the scarlet word, and I'm over it. Fuck them. And here's the thing about me you might not know, because even though that rarely happens anymore, someone calling me a racist, it has happened in the past. Because you cannot be a white person in America in this decade talking about race without being called a racist. So it's all very comical. This has happened to me online. You know what that means? That means it's in front of the world. I'm Devin Tracy talking to you right now. I'm not an anonymous kangaroo. I'm the same Devin Tracy that is stuck to that name, that keyword, that passcode, that follows me. So if I try to rent an apartment or get a job or, I don't know, meet someone new, hey, Devin, what do you do? Oh, I'm a YouTuber. Oh, really? What's your YouTube channel? Atheism is, oh, let me type it. Oh, he's a racist. Oh, he's a fucking racist. Well, yeah, that sucks. Sucks to be me, right? The one good thing about it, though, is what you're seeing right now. It's that because I've been through that fire, because I'm now immune to it, Khaleesi style, I'm allowed to speak out on this in the way it needs to be spoken out about. I'm not pulling punches. I'm going to tell you exactly what's up. And why? Because I lack white guilt in a very drastic way, as in it doesn't exist within me. Why is that? Because I have a backbone and balls, and because I'm a man. Do you remember that fat fucking YouTuber who's called The Amazing Atheist?
Why did all 5 of these teenagers go free? In 2002, a serial rapist named Mateus Reyes confessed to attacking the jogger. He said he was the only one involved, even though there was no evidence to corroborate that claim, and his DNA was a match for the crime scene. None of the Central Park 5 were connected to the case by DNA. This was treated as a major revelation by the news media, but it wasn't remarkable information at all. The authorities always understood, because of the unknown DNA, that there was at least one outstanding suspect.
When They Rape Us, Part 1. They're innocent because the real rapist came forward.
You better believe that I hate the people that took this girl and raped her brutally. You better believe it. And it's more than anger, it's hatred. And I want society to hate them.
In New York City in the late 80s and early 90s, the case of the Central Park jogger was notorious. In April of 1989, a white woman who had been jogging was found brutally raped and beaten nearly to death in Central Park. Not long after the woman was discovered, 4 black teenagers, 1 Latino teenager were charged and jailed for the crime. The gruesome case whipped up an unbelievable hysteria throughout the city, the media ginning up fears with headlines about wolf packs and roving gangs and wilding. But the 5 boys, ages 14 to 16, had falsely confessed to the crime after hours of police interrogations. They were later tried, convicted, and sentenced to prison. But vindication for the group, known as the Central Park 5, came in 2002, when a convicted murderer and rapist confessed to the crime. And that confession was then corroborated by DNA. The prison sentences of the Central Park Five were overturned, but by that time they had already served between 5 and 13 years. In 2014, the men were awarded a $40 million settlement from New York City. The story that had gripped the city for years came to a close, and yet one Manhattan resident's obsession with the case continues to this day.
They're innocent because the real rapist came forward. The overriding narrative of the Central Park Five case is that the boys accused of this rape were innocent because some DNA proof came out years later that absolved them of guilt. It was pretty definitive. Did you hear me say DNA? When most people hear such a definitive and bold statement like the DNA proved they're innocent, they just accept it. They don't even think to challenge it, because who are they? They're not experts in DNA, they're not scientists, they're not crime scene investigators. I mean, if you say the DNA proved them innocent, it probably did. I mean, DNA sounds kind of fancy. Who am I to challenge that? I don't want to be on the wrong side of science or history. There's also this assumption that, look, if I'm hearing that the DNA proved they were innocent, surely someone has fact-checked this. Somebody out there, at some point, some adult person who actually cares about what's true and what's not, double-checked all this. Otherwise, it wouldn't have persisted. Otherwise, I would have heard something else. I mean, why am I hearing this message if it's not true? Hey, now look, I might go and research it myself if I cared or if I had the time, but check it. I'm busy. I don't have the time. So I'm just going to trust what I'm hearing. Well, let me be the one to tell you in no uncertain terms and with perfect lucidity and clarity. I am that adult who has looked into this, and I'm here to tell you that the DNA evidence, quote unquote, didn't prove jack shit. Oh, it does prove one thing. Mateus Reyes came after he raped Trisha Miley. His DNA was there. It is incriminating evidence for Mateus Reyes. One thing it doesn't do, most definitely, is that it doesn't establish the innocence of the Central Park Five. Because, I don't know, I don't want to be unclear with you, let me cut to the chase. The Central Park Five are as guilty as can be. And so is Mateus Reyes. These things are not mutually exclusive.
This all came up at trial. Police had no reason to believe that any of the teenagers would have left DNA on the scene, at least not the kind of DNA they were looking for at the time. So the identification of a new suspect and a DNA link really did nothing from a practical perspective to exonerate the Central Park Five, but everyone acted otherwise. The DNA in Manhattan, Robert Morgenthau, petitioned for the convictions to be vacated. A judge agreed, and that was it. There wasn't even a hearing. Now, hearing this, leftists will say, but Mateus Reyes confessed, and he specifically said he was the only one involved. And that's true, he did confess, but it's also a very ironic claim for these people to be making, because in one breath, when it comes to the Central Park Five, they claim the confessions are irrelevant and fake and coerced, and in the next breath, when they're talking about Reyes, they'll say that we should treat this confession as gospel. He said he acted alone, therefore he acted alone. Case closed.
So, let me just hammer home the point. At the risk of stating the obvious, just because one guy raped a woman doesn't mean other men didn't rape her as well. I hope that didn't get lost on you when you heard that the DNA evidence proved they're innocent. Because, after all, it was a gang rape. And even though I haven't partaken in many gang rapes lately, I'm kind of familiar with the physics of it. I mean, that is what the 5 teenagers confessed to doing, and that is what the medical evidence indicates. So let me teach you about the birds and the bees of raping. Not all rapists come. For all of these guys, outside of Reyes, this was their first rape. You know how I know that? Well, first off, it's safe to assume these are young men without a history of sexual assault. They had no prior rapes on their record, so I think it's a safe assumption. But also, they said it was their first rape. And I mean literally. Corey Wise, maybe not so wise, because he sat there during questioning and said, "This was my first rape."
So I had to get into it too. I wasn't doing what they was doing. They was on top of raping her completely. I was playing with her.
When you say they were raping her,
huh?
When you say they were raping her, what exactly were they doing?
This how it was fucking her. This what they was fucking. Him and Steve and Raymond and me and Kev and Yusuf was playing with her. Like Yusuf had her arms and me and Kev was playing with her.
What were you doing when you were playing with her?
Huh?
What were you doing?
I was playing with her legs.
What were you doing to the legs?
Huh? I was going up and down her legs. I wasn't doing as much as they was doing.
Were you going up to her crotch?
No. I was about to. I said no. I couldn't see. I couldn't exactly see myself doing that. Even though I was up to it, but I wasn't gonna do it. I could see the expression on her face that when we do this and get caught by the cops and handcuffed, it's gonna be through. So what they did and what I did was different from them. The only people that did it different was me, Yusuf, and Kevin did what they was doing. Me and Yusuf was just playing with her.
Did you play with her breasts?
Huh? Used to play with the breast.
Did you?
No. I didn't go up to the breast or nothing. I stayed on the leg. They told me pull out her pants. I said pull out her pants. So Steve got off of her. Steve said Steve called me a punk because I didn't do it. They hold her down. And which one Steve ripped her pants with his knife. That's what made her mad. And that's when she started scratching what's her name? Kevin. She was yelling pretty loud. Used to close their mouth. They had bigger heads than us. Close their mouth. So we were looking at her, and I felt kind of bad. This is my first extreme I did to any type of female in the street. This is my first rape. I never did this before. This will be my last time doing it. This is my first experience.
That's the sum total of the exoneration, the word of a psycho. Oh, maybe you're not familiar with Reyes. I'll teach you about Reyes, but I do find it interesting that for some reason we're supposed to trust the confession of Mateus Reyes 13 years after the fact. But the 5 confessions of the guys who were there that they took the same day, within 24 hours they're confessing with their parents there, and that is all. No, that's what. Forget it. Forget that. Trust the psychopath 13 years later, who's saying it, by the way, way after the statute of limitations. This wasn't going to hurt him. In fact, he was going to be helped by this. Reyes got a transfer to a better prison, a cushier prison after this. Reyes also didn't want to get killed or shanked in prison because Reyes was in the same prison block as Corey Wise. Corey Wise is this little dude. He's a bit of a psycho. Well, I mean, he's slow. I don't know how, I'm not trying to be insulting. The man is diminished. He smoked crack for a large portion of his life. He had learning disabilities. He could barely read. He did awful at school. He was out of school. He left school. He was out of school for like a month when this happened. He speaks slowly. You can tell he's a bit retarded. I don't know how else to, he's retarded. And yet he's a blood. He's a gangster. Corey Wise is a gangster, and he was a gangster in prison. And he had gangster friends. And so he put pressure on Mateus Reyes saying, hey, take the fall for this. Tell them you did it. And not just that you did it. We all know Mateus Reyes was part of this. Say you did it alone. So now we're left with 6 confessions. The one from Mateus Reyes saying he did it alone, and the 5 from the Central Park 5 who said, no, we were all there. I saw exactly what happened. I mean, Antron McCrae, this little fella, he said the following: we charged her. We got her on the ground. Everybody started hitting her and stuff. She was on the ground. Everybody stomping and everything. When have we ever heard of bleep people stomping on someone? And
never mind the fact that prosecutors barred detectives from interviewing Reyes and his associates. Never mind the fact that Reyes, who was serving a life sentence, had a motive to lie. He wanted a favorable prison transfer, which he received. Additionally, he was receiving threats through the prison's underground communication system, saying he'd be harmed if he didn't come forward. Never mind the fact that New York City criminal court judge Thomas Galligan was quoted as saying, if Reyes is a credible witness, then credibility has a new meaning. And most importantly, you're supposed to ignore the fact that an acquaintance of Reyes said that Reyes claimed in a private conversation that he joined in on the attack after it was already in progress. So there were independent witnesses who came forward to say that Reyes was lying to the DA, but we're supposed to ignore that as well. So the idea that the Central Park Five were exonerated, put simply, is total propaganda. But it worked. And to understand how it worked, you understand just how brazenly black activists were lying about the crime from the moment it happened.
I mean, it is at the level where I don't know what else to say. I don't know how else to prove to anyone watching this how obvious this is. Was any of this portrayed in When They See Us? Of course not. This was all suppressed. They run and hide from this. And they know that, the bleep community and the white guilt community, they're not going to research this. You know why? Because they're happy with the story portrayed in the film. Does it matter that it's not true? Not really, because you know what is true? The feeling they get from watching that story. That's true. So even though the story is a lie, how good it makes them feel is very, very true. And if you want to go around living your life just trying to feel as good as possible and not caring at all about whether or not you're basing that off things that are true or self-delusion, then just know that there will be people exposing you for who you are, mocking and shaming you, and fighting to expose that ever elusive thing, increasingly elusive now with the internet, the truth. The Central Park Five are guilty as hell. Research it for yourself and have the balls to raise that point at your next dinner party or Thanksgiving or bukkake session. I don't know what you're into. Bring it up and stand up for the truth.
They simply deny basic observable facts, and they get away with it. They become heroes to the black community. One of the Central Park Five, a man named Yusuf Salam, is now a New York City councilman. Several of them work for the Innocence Project, which specializes in freeing criminals, many of them guilty, on technicalities. It's actually one of the worst organizations in the entire country. It's in terms of the damage that it does to communities by releasing these people. They use false narratives to spring dangerous criminals on society. And every time there's a story about innocent projects having some success in getting a criminal out, everyone just assumes, based on the name of the organization, that, oh, they proved this person was innocent. No. Very often they get these people out on very often it's someone who's clearly guilty, but some kind of technical thing happened. And so on a technicality, they spring this guilty person from prison. This is what this organization does.
His daughter, Kim Kardashian, she went on Saturday Night Live, did an opening monologue. And in that monologue, she said something like the following. She said, "Recently, I've been getting into true crime and advocating for the release of innocent people who have been wrongfully convicted of committing murder. Following in the footsteps of my father." And that got a laugh. That was written by Saturday Night Live writers who knew that this is ridiculous, that your father got OJ out of prison, and now you are getting murderers out of prison. In fact, Kevin Keith, the alliterated black murderer who shot 6 people, killing 3 of them, women and children, blacks, he committed that triple homicide in 1994. So, hey, Dad, hey, Daddy Bob, you got a double murder out in 94? I'm getting a triple murder out in 94. Why? It gives Kim meaning. Yeah, she enjoys selling Spanx and makeup, and she has millions upon millions of dollars, but where's the gravitas? Where's her legacy? She's helping people. She's giving them a second chance. This guy's innocent. This is a demented call to purpose in their lives, and it is floundering. It's embarrassing. It's exhausting to witness. We need to do something about this. If we do not stand up on this, then who are we? What does that say about us? We have to draw a line in the sand, and that line is right here and right now.
You need to defend your civilization.
It was during closing arguments. I made eye contact with OJ. There's a video of it up on YouTube. The reason there's a video, by the way, is because I was sitting next to Richard Dreyfuss randomly. And the Associated Press and everyone was fascinated. They're like, oh, look at Richard Dreyfuss. And I'm the guy right next to him. And I made the nightly news, whatever.
That's hilarious.
But here's the thing. OJ got off. It's kind of crazy. He's walking the streets, a free man. He committed a double murder. I thought that was a one-off. I thought that was a bug. Turns out it's the feature. And we have watched some insidious people perform just horribly nefarious behaviors to get murderers out of prison. There's a thing called the Innocence Project. Maybe you heard of it.
Yep.
It is completely innocence fraud, and it's a debacle, and it will be exposed, hopefully by me.
What did they get wrong about the OJ trial?
Well, that's going to be a large part of what I want to talk to you about today.
You take this where you would like.
We can relitigate the OJ trial, but that was one of the most overwhelmingly obvious guilty verdicts that should have been that wasn't due to racial tension. So the Innocence Project are basically race vultures. The people who work there like to use ethnomasochism and white guilt to bring in money. It's just that simple. They brought in $32 million last year, and I'm sure it'll probably be even more this year because the mission statement sounds great. We want to get the wrongfully convicted out of prison. We want to bring true justice and get some closure to people and get them off of death row whenever they're on death row when they shouldn't be. And they use the magic of DNA to do so. Now, of course, in the OJ case, they tell you DNA isn't real and ignore that. And then later on, they'll do other. I'll give you examples of how they misuse DNA and the public's misunderstanding of it against us. But either way, it definitely sounds like a noble cause until you actually look at who they select as their clients. By the way, I used to be way in favor of the Innocence Project. Whenever I want you to know right now, I have very close friends, they may be listening right now, who have donated money on a regular basis to the Innocence Project. And it's my job today to disabuse them of that support. You have to think about it. Human beings are storytellers, and we're story listeners. Everything's a story. I'm giving you a story right now, but the only difference is how well can I combat all of the programming you have, all of the media, all of this positive press coverage, all of these things that sound really compelling. I'm a random blue-collar worker. I'm a nobody. And there's nobody that's standing up to the Innocence Project besides Devin Tracy and a guy on YouTube named the Actual Justice Warrior. These are the only people I've ever heard be critical of them the slightest. I was turned on to their deception by Devin Tracy, AIU. And just to give him a shout out, that's he's on uncensored.tv. Use the coupon code RUE so he can get some money.
I started the Real History series because false historical narratives are fundamental to the left's power in this country. Their mythology is central to everything they do. They come up with extremely obvious lies, but they sell them with total sincerity, and it works. Along the same lines, leftists are transfixed by something they call the Tulsa Race Massacre. A few years ago, a show on HBO called The Watchmen popularized this myth on the left. They depicted a genocidal and unprovoked attack by white people. Watch.
A white man goes up to a tall black vet and says, "Where you going with that gun, nigger?"
Fight! Outstanding. Impressive.
Oh, good for you!
Finish him.
We're here to put a bow on the story of the Tulsa Race Massacre. So named Massacre because they didn't like the previous name, which was Riot. Because a riot is hard to blame anyone. A massacre, it's easy to blame. You blame the side that did the massacring. Now, if I told you that 13 white people died, you'd say, oh, then the blacks did the massacring, no? They're the bad ones. No, that gets forgotten completely. It also gets forgotten that blacks started the killing. They showed up with guns, organized, and opened fire, killing white men in the middle of town, at the courthouse. And then they got payback, punishment, retribution from the white people in the town who were a little bit against being publicly executed by random bleeps.
They don't provide any context whatsoever. They claim that white people just started executing black people solely because they were black, and every single comment is treating this footage like it's found footage from the 1920s. They're acting like it's an authentic historical document. The top comment reads, "The fact that this atrocity wasn't taught in schools is a travesty in itself." And every other comment is like that. Even though, by the way, it is taught in schools. It should be obvious that people shouldn't get their history from an HBO show. That's exactly what happened. Here's a social media post with 700,000 likes, for example. Quote, "I remember when Watchmen aired and it showed the Tulsa Massacre. I had no clue it even happened. It's terrifying knowing this evil happened in recent history and the people involved tried to hide it." Now, HBO obviously didn't invent this narrative either. The so-called Tulsa Race Massacre has been a fixture of leftist propaganda for a very long time. And again, it is in the schools. They do teach it in schools. But there's a lot missing from the narrative. Okay, so I'll explain. Dick Rowland was a 19-year-old shoe shiner in Tulsa. Rowland, taking a break from his job, went into a nearby building where he sexually assaulted a 17-year-old white girl named Sarah Page, who was working as an elevator operator.
This is the type of girl that was standing in the elevator. She was the forbidden fruit, a white woman in 1921, and a young 19-year-old black man, who was also an orphan, by the way. He was a shoe shiner. He used to take the elevator to get up to the 3rd floor to use the colored bathroom. But on this day, he wanted a little something extra from Sarah Page. And what he did to her in that elevator will be the discussion of this video, because it is the origin story of the Tulsa race riots / massacre / Chimpapalooza. All right, this woman, her sex appeal started a war.
According to local news reports at the time, Rowland grabbed her arms, scratched her, tore her clothes, and tried to assault her. The woman shrieked, and Rowland only abandoned the attack when someone else came over to assist her. Rowland denied that he attacked the woman and claimed that he just fell on top of her somehow. At the
Lied, it's about a proposal.
It's about a proposal was just said. They're throwing out the theory that there was a proposal, I'm not kidding you by the way, a proposal in the elevator, and the scream that was heard by the local racist white businessman was actually her being shocked at said proposal. So it was more of a gasp of glee and joy, but it was misinterpreted as a scream, and it started a race massacre. Oh, fucking whites, why are you so against the beautiful burgeoning love story between this black and this white?
It's romantic.
It's romantic. Look at her. That's the face of this guy suggesting a romance between these two.
Like Romo was like working on her romantic like engagement squeal.
Engagement squeal. So the shriek of horror that this woman expressed in 1921 when a man attacked her viciously and scratched her up and was touching her face and her arm and pulling at her clothes. No, that is a gasp of glee.
And so there's this like lightheartedness that makes that part more fun to engage with.
Oh, there it is. It's like a bark.
The romantic windows and the white walls can help bring forward the story that, you know.
Can you freaking believe they're doing this? No. What are we even talking about here? So this is a woman running cover for her second cousin who's sexually assaulting a chick in 1921. And listen to what she says. They were kissing. No, it was a guy trying to kiss her. She screamed and said, "Get the fuck out of here."
What he saw was two people kissing. Sarah Page and Dick Rowland were lovers.
No, they were not. No, they absolutely were not.
Ew, get off of me.
And this is the same stupid shit that happened with Rodney Reed, where he rapes a woman, rapes many women, but he rapes a woman and then he kills her. And then he goes, no, she was my secret lover. We were having an affair. And yeah, before her morning shift at the supermarket at 4 a.m., she rolled over and we were fucking in her car. I mean, anally fucking and like creating anal tears. And then her body was found dead and your semen and saliva was all over it. But yeah, that's just my lover.
Blaze, John Doyle described what happened next. Watch.
So tensions explode in Jim Crow, Tulsa, and word starts spreading all around that there may be a lynching. And ironically, the only reason that people believed that there might be a lynching was because a year prior, a white man named Roy Belton was lynched after being suspected of murder. So a bunch of angry white people...
The whole premise is absurd. No one's gonna lynch Diamond Dick. In fact, a black person had never been lynched in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It had never happened. Fun fact, 9 months prior, a white man was lynched at the very same courthouse. Well, that's where they dragged the guy out of. It was a guy right here, went by the name Tom Owens, but his actual name was Roy Belton. And he was a 19-year-old white man arrested in Tulsa, Oklahoma with a female accomplice for the August 21st, 1920 hijacking and shooting of a white man who was a local taxi driver named Homer Nida. He was taken from the county jail by a group of armed men after a confrontation with the sheriff and taken to an isolated, you hear those birds? And taken to an isolated area where he was lynched. Now, the reason they lynched him was because he killed a dude. And back in the day, this is more like the Old West, where people took the law into their own hands. The sheriff didn't like it. They didn't like that as a precedent, but it wasn't like this guy was innocent. The reason you're not going to hear about it is because it was a white man who killed another white man, and then a bunch of white people killed the white guy. So, I guess nothing bad about that.
People show up outside the courthouse, but they were kept at bay by the sheriff and his 6 armed men. And the most chaotic it got was when a bunch of white people, like 3 of them, walked inside the courthouse and said, "Hey, hand him over." And the sheriff was like, "No." And then they just left. So now, seeing this angry mob of white people, a bunch of black people decide to go arm themselves to confront this mob to protect Dick Rowland, even though, again, the sheriff pretty much has it all under control. So a bunch of them armed themselves with rifles and shotguns and marched to go confront this mob outside of the courthouse. So then the white people are like, "Why are they armed? We should probably be armed." So then they go get armed. And this standoff ends up turning pretty deadly, with black people actually attacking first, opening fire on whites after they claim a white guy tried to disarm one of the armed black guys in front of a bunch of other armed black guys. I don't know if I buy that, but the result was 12 people dead, 10 of whom were white and 2 were black. So total chaos erupts. Riots, shootings, fires. Over 24 hours, Greenwood burns, up to 300 people die, most of whom are black, and thousands become homeless. But that did start because of black aggression, right? It wasn't just like random white rage.
The official death toll was 37, a number almost too low to believe.
Too low to believe? We found 37 bodies. I mean, how do you think we count the dead? This is not some mystery. It's not like, oh, you see that pile of dead bodies over there? Disregard. No one claimed them. We're not even going to count that. No, that's the number of people who died.
Most experts believe that between 100 and 300 people were killed, most of them black.
Between 100 and 300? What? Where are they? Where did they go?
He's confronted by a white individual who asks him what he's about to do with that gun.
Who asks him what? Who asks him, "Where you going with that gun, nigga?"
Says, "Where you going with that gun, nigger?"
Oh, sorry, it was a hard R.
And he tells the white man, "Well, I'm going to do what I need to do if I need to defend myself."
So he did some preemptive defense. Well, you know the best defense is offense, right, Hook Nose?
At that point, there was a physical altercation over the gun. The white man gets shot and he's killed.
What? The white man gets shot? He shot the white man, Hook Nose.
And then the riots erupt. Now,
Oh, so then revenge happens because you're killing people in the street. Oh, okay.
The outcome of this is beyond disturbing.
Right, 26 blacks dead after they had shot and killed around 13 whites. Yeah, it's disturbing as fuck, huh?
The night's carnage left 3,000 African Americans dead. The night's carnage left 3,000 African Americans dead.
In through the nose, out through the mouth.
600 successful businesses lost.
Oh, were they successful? The bleeps did something successful and then they got trampled for no reason.
Disturbing. The night's carnage left 3,000 African Americans dead and over 600 successful businesses lost. Among these were 21 churches, 21 restaurants, 30 grocery stores, and 2 movie theaters, plus a hospital, a bank, a post office, libraries, schools, law offices, a half dozen private airplanes, and even a bus system.
Whoa, the blacks had a bus system? They're innovating everything. Oh, they didn't? They're just borrowing off the white town, the city at large, piggybacking on the infrastructure that whites built? Okay, Anna, let's just review. 3,000 African Americans dead is what you reported, and that video still is up on your channel? 3,000 dead! So I'm joking at the 300 number, which is over 10 times wrong. We're talking orders of magnitude wrong times 10. 26 are dead. They're saying 300. Anna's like, hold my beak. How about 3,000? 3,000 bleeps dead.
So to recap, after this black guy was arrested for attempted rape, a lot of people, including white people and black people, showed up at the jail. The black militia was worried that the suspected rapist would get lynched, just like a white guy had been lynched recently at the time this happened. But they didn't remain peaceful for very long. The black militia brought their weapons and opened fire. They killed several white people, and then the white people got their guns and retaliated against the people who had attacked them. Now, there's a reason that all of this context is stripped out of the official narrative. It completely undercuts everything they're saying. They know that if the narrative was, well, black people opened fire for no reason, but then the white people overreacted in response, well, then the whole event would lose much of the anti-white narrative power that it currently has.
That concludes my series on the Tulsa race riot. Please take the lesson from this because this goes way past the Tulsa race riot. It goes to the way people operate, the way they think, what they're willing to do when it comes to history, when it comes to the present day. It's a story about greed. It's a story about corruption. It's a story about lying. There is zero honor here, zero dignity. It's all completely unethical. And it's all a test to you to see if you're willing to accept this. Will you swallow that? Will you stand up? Will you push back? Does the truth matter to you? Or does social acceptance matter? Point blank. What's more important to you? Saying the right thing so that people online think you're a swell guy, or living with the requisite integrity and dignity to stand up for what is right, live in accordance with reality, and have some inkling of respect for the concept of what is true? Because sometimes you can't get both of those. Human beings are frail, stupid, weak-minded, and predictable, some way more than others. Evidence of that is occurring all the time, you just have to look for it. If anyone wants to know the truth about what happened in Tulsa in 1921, and if you feel so inclined to let them know about it, refer them over to my 3 videos up on Censored TV that paint the actual picture of what happened that day. I did the research, I put in that work, Devin, and I'm on the record. And please have them use AIU as the coupon code, otherwise I don't get paid and Gavin becomes richer. And that's something we cannot stand. I hope you guys have a lovely day. Get ready for new history to be twisted and distorted and lied about. Tomorrow, today, it's happening. History matters, not because some random event from 100 years ago has anything to do with today, but because it's an insight to let us learn about the skewed nature of human behavior, but also human manipulation, propaganda, distortion. If we don't learn history, we're doomed to repeat it. Nah, it's getting repeated regardless. It's just some of us know that it's being repeated because we spot the patterns. We see through what they're doing. These people have been decoded. And now it's up to us to plant our flag in what is true and what actually happened and say, here's the line. I'm not crossing right here. And if you want to stand on that side of the line, I'll be there waiting for you to join me.
Run it.
And this is the trend you begin to see. The propagandists take some event in history that did happen, in many cases. They strip it down to the studs, clear away all the stuff that makes the event more complicated or that in any way implicates the narrative's protagonists, and then they retell the story with those details removed and some fabricated details mixed in. It's a very clever and effective strategy. It's extremely difficult decades or centuries later sometimes to separate fact from fiction when they're interwoven in this way. And if you're lying about a thing that actually happened and actually was bad, then the propagandists can always say as a last resort, hey, maybe you're right that some facts were left out, but why are you so focused on that? What does it matter to you? Are you saying that this bad thing was actually good? Well, what are you really up to here? This is what many commentators did a few weeks ago when I tried to correct the record on Rosa Parks, on the Rosa Parks story. Many details are left out of that story, as we discussed, and my attempt to simply give the full story was met with accusations that although what I'm saying is true, I must really be trying to justify the segregation of black people on buses.
So what do you think people do with that? Well, here's what they do. The urge to make bleeps innocent in all things, when you have a golden goose, which is Emmett Till, and this story that has been fabricated, but is meant to be something, it's meant to mean something. You know, like how Rosa Parks, that wasn't actually what happened that day. That was all contrived. Doesn't matter though, the story is bigger than the truth. And so when you got your golden boy, Emmett Till, and it turns out his father is a rapist and a murderer, you're like, ooh, can we not have that be the case? That's not good.
Right, that was the ridiculous claim. We could do the same thing with someone like Harriet Tubman. Her story is shrouded in mythology. Many of the supposed facts about Tubman and the Underground Railroad are fabricated or invented out of whole cloth, but she was a real person. She did help free some slaves. So extracting the real facts from the mythology is difficult, and any attempt to do so, again, will be met with people not so much refuting your point, but rather impugning your motives in raising the point in the first place. This is how the game is played. And they play this game with the incident in Tulsa by just omitting the whole part of the black mob opening fire because it's cleaner that way. The HBO show literally begins in the violence of in the middle of violence without any context, and they make it seem like white people were the only ones doing the shooting, and millions of people buy the story without any hesitation. They fabricate history in order to make white people look like genocidal maniacs and black people the perpetual victims. It's a never-ending story, and it's one we're all familiar with.
Right, don't shoot the white people. That's not what happened. Really? Then how did 10 whites die? But you see, the filmmakers, they're the good guys. You see that? They're not going to shoot back. Oh, even though they're totally justified, even though they didn't start this, oh, but they did. But they did. So showing us a black woman and this black man going, no, 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 violence is never the answer. Totally ridiculous. There it is. Oh, look, they have it on the front page. Ah, so to lynch Negro tonight. A complete frigging lie. And anyone who was researching this to try to recreate this, they would have known that.
The headline on the white newspaper reads, Negro to be lynched in Tulsa tonight.
How big is that newspaper? Seems kind of wide.
The sheriff takes Dick Rowland into protective custody and puts him on the top floor of the courthouse. Down below the courthouse, in the courthouse square, by nightfall, an angry white mob is gathering, getting bigger and bigger.
Okay. No, milady, not quite what happened. So yes, they did bring him to the top floor. He was in custody. They did some other stuff too. They disabled the elevators so that no one could get up there. They put snipers on the rooftop, and they had a bunch of armed guards down below. They were in control of that situation. And by the way, nothing happened to Diamond Dick. So the worst racial massacre of all time, Diamond Dick was fine. He stayed fine. He was in jail. That was it. He left after the riot. No harm came to this man. And also, there's no proof that this was an angry mob. It wasn't a mob at all. In fact, the angry mob of people were the blacks who came in fully armed to the teeth with an agenda. They did not disperse. They were told to go home. They didn't. They were there for a reason. They were there for a fight. You take your gun out, you ride into town with a bunch of your boys, a bunch of World War I vets. What do you think they were going to do? Show of force? Shock and awe? They were there to use their weapons. They did. And then came the consequences.
And some members of that mob, they have weapons in one hand and alcohol in the other.
Now, if you read the official narratives carefully, you'll find that they try to paper over the storyline a bit. Here's the Washington Post, for example, quote, Black World War I veterans who wanted to protect Rowland from being lynched rushed to the courthouse to defend him. A shot was fired and all hell broke loose, a massacre survivor recalled later. So did you catch that? A shot was fired. I made this point when I did my takedown of that atrocious Ken Burns documentary on the American Revolution. You always have to pay close attention whenever you hear the passive voice. When you hear a shot was fired, you should ask, well, who fired it? You know, along the same lines, when you hear slaves were sent to America, you should ask, well, who sent them?
These guys just drove through town, about 35 of them, in cars like some sort of Somali warlord, guns sticking out, and they march in. And by the way, they're still doing that today in Tulsa. The same dudes, 100 years later, same exact kind of guy, they're marching around being militant and angry and looking for a fight. I'm talking about this week they're doing that. And those same dudes are threatening to kill white people. We'll look at that a little later. So if you want to see a modern day version of what happened back then, look no further than to This Week in Tulsa. Angry, armed black men who hate white people and are looking for a fight. They're still there.
The police commissioner, fearing that he does not have enough police officers, makes a decision that will change the course of history, and he deputizes 500 members of this mob on the spot.
Now, you got your timing all fucked up. That happened after the riot started to try to contain the riot. It didn't happen before the riot. Why would you deputize 500 people to contain nothing?
On the other side of the train tracks, there's a small group of World War I veterans who decide no one will be lynched in Tulsa tonight.
Oh, they're so noble. Did they fight for our country? Is that what they were doing? What were their intentions?
They fought overseas for freedom and dignity and respect, and they expect it here.
Newsflash, the white people in Tulsa fought in World War I, and they deserve dignity and respect and all that. So I love that, trying to pretend like, what, just the blacks were fighting in World War I? Are you kidding me? Complete horseshit.
And so they cross those train tracks, and they go to the courthouse, and they offer their assistance to the sheriff.
Right. So these are private citizens who are armed. This is an unregulated militia, and they're racist, and the whole premise is absurd. No one's gonna lynch Diamond Dick. In fact, a black person had never been lynched in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It had never happened. So while Tulsa did have an issue with lynching, there's no evidence that this guy was about to be lynched. None. What actually happened was the blacks instigated the violence, and they ramped up the tension by showing up armed.
But there's an altercation and a gun goes off and someone is killed and all hell breaks loose.
Oh my fucking God. Did you hear that? But there's an altercation. A gun goes off, guys. So what was that? Just a spontaneous trigger pull from what? The wind? Did someone pull a trigger? I mean, she could not bring herself to say, a black dude shot a white guy. The whites weren't too thrilled with that. And by the way, it wasn't just the one black guy. His boys, all his boys started firing. And that's why 10 whites got dropped. And the whites were like, oh shit, not today, bruh. You ain't getting away with that shit. Welcome to the South, motherfuckers. And they came back firing because they're men and because they're, I don't know, have a survival instinct. They're not pussies. They're in a gunfight. She said, a gun went off.
But there's an altercation and a gun goes off and someone is killed and all hell breaks loose.
What do you mean someone is killed? A white man was killed. Someone? A gun goes off. No, who fired it? Who fired it? Who started this? Oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's the fucking whites. Someone was killed. A white man was killed because a black man fired a gun. How hard is that to see that she is completely lying? We should deny this woman A, her cats, B, her wine for the rest of time, and her vibrator.
Whenever they want to hide the truth, they bring out the passive voice. This is a very common thing. And the reason I went into particular detail on these myths is that they persist to this day. There are plenty of other myths like the Tawana Brawley case, Michael Brown, hands up, don't shoot lie, Breonna Taylor nonsense, etc. Many others that we could add to the list, but if you're paying the slightest bit of attention, then you already know that those narratives are false. By contrast, the historical myths that I just mentioned, and many more that we could mention, are still to this day pushed by our schools and by the corporate press. We should use the conviction of Karmelo Anthony and the flood of lies that surrounded this case as an opportunity to remind ourselves that much of our history, as it's communicated to us in the modern school system, is simply fake. The lies are brazen because brazen lies, told with confidence, are the most effective. I mean, the same people who tell you that Karmelo Anthony was a victim are the same people who are lying to you about the civil rights movement and the extensive damage that it's done to our country. We just released a 2-part documentary on the topic on the Daily Wire. Could have been 500 parts, really. After enduring the Karmelo Anthony trial and all the lies we've been told, it's now abundantly clear that these people are never going to stop lying. All we can do in response is to read as many primary sources as possible, tune out the hysteria and intimidation, correct the record fearlessly, even if they yell at you for doing it. They lie about our past so that they can repeat the same tactics over and over again. It's the only move they have. And as Karmelo Anthony rots in prison, like he deserves, while Rick Chow and Daniel Penny and Kyle Rittenhouse go free, as they deserve, they must be realizing that their one move, namely lying about everything, is finally losing its effectiveness. The truth is winning. All we have to do, which I'm going to devote the rest of my career to doing, is to continue telling the truth about our history. And the more they howl, the more they threaten us, the more they attack us, the more we know they're losing whatever power they once had. They are afraid and desperate. And especially after this week, it's never been more obvious that we will defeat them.
You have the same agitators, you have the same armed people, in the same city even. But it's way bigger than that, because there's an end game to this psychological freakout that the bleeps have been going on since the cotton picking days. And it's they seek revenge. They want blood. And if and when it comes to that, I hope the authorities, the military, the cops, etc. will get the job done. I mean, they regulate, they crack down upon them, as they should, whenever they pop off. But when the numbers get big, things get sloppy, things get messy. And then, don't worry, the revisionists will swoop in and propagandize and lie. Just blatantly lie about all of it to make sure that the whites are the bad guys and the blacks did nothing. Have you heard that story over the past 5 years? If and when it does come down to this, just know that I own a hat like that, and I'm more than ready. I mean, I don't want to do this. I'd rather be a lover, not a fighter, but people will rise. And if that does come to pass, I'm showing up with a little crew, a little posse. Perhaps you might know of them. It's not a big group, I mean, feel free to join, but my crew, it's going to be me wearing that hat. To my right's going to be Phil Anselmo. Perhaps you've heard of him. His shoulder is repaired. His back is feeling fine. He's ready to roll. To my left is a friend of mine, Mantis Jurgudis, the Lithuanian MMA fighter / bouncer living in England. Yeah, he's on my team. And then over here is Mike Pierce, the welterweight UFC fighter who is willing and able to kick ass when the time calls for it. So that's my group. Now maybe G-Dog, Gavin, and the Proud Boys want to join up. Sure, we can sync up. That's fine. But when people need to march and when people need to step up to the occasion, we shall be coming. Fuck the new Black Panthers. It's time for the new Peaky Blinders to rise up and man up and stand for what's right. Because what happened in the Tulsa race bullshit was, surprise, surprise, started by the bleeps. Now you know. Do not be conned. Trust no one except for your Uncle Devin. Oh, but feel free to cross-check me. Not like in hockey. I'm talking about do your due diligence. Study the shit yourself. I stand on the side of reality and righteousness and karma and justice. So bleeps, if you don't want the rise of the Peaky Blinders 2.0, please refrain from fucking up the program and being violent, you dumb fucks, and go get a job.
And you thought your uncle was racist. Not racist, just right.